Marjaan Sirdar is a freelance investigative journalist and a contributor to Unicorn Riot. He authored the 12-part series Jim Crow and the North Star City about how Target Corporation, Minneapolis, and Hennepin County created a domestic spy program that rolled back civil rights on its black population. The last investigation in this series covers the Seward Market triple murders in 2010 and the conviction of 15-year-old Mahdi Ali. Marjaan's here to talk with us about this deep dive report. So, how did you learn about this story and what made you decide to write about it?
I was doing a deep dive investigation into Target's public-private surveillance partnership and its cozy relationship with the Minneapolis Police Department, and how together with the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, they were cracking down on low-level so-called livability crimes. And what I found is they were almost exclusively arresting and prosecuting black people, mostly black youths who were disproportionately homeless, for things such as jaywalking, spitting on the ground, and loitering. It very much felt like a throwback to Jim Crow and the Black Codes, which is where these ordinances originated, all to put newly free black people in bondage. It was during this investigation when I learned about Mahdi's story and Target's involvement in his conviction, although he maintains his innocence. Considering the dragnet racialized surveillance and systematic arrest of black youth in downtown Minneapolis, spearheaded by Target, I thought I ought to look into his case, and what I found was jarring.
So, your report covers the more than 24 glaring issues that you found with the official investigation and the murder trial. And that report is up on our website on Unicorn Riot. Now, you're here to break down the top issues within that. So, the first one off was that Mahdi had an alibi. And what can you tell us about this?
So I spoke to Mahdi's friend, AJ, who he asked me to not reveal his real name, so we call him AJ in our report. And AJ said he was Mahdi's alibi the night of the murder. He testified at Mahdi's trial that they were together with another friend at the time of the killings. So Mahdi, who was driving AJ's car that day, the day of the killings, picked up AJ from work when the crimes occurred, according to AJ and according to Mahdi. And AJ's employer, the University Fairview Hospital, verified to police that AJ clocked out of work about 10 minutes before the murders happened. AJ and Mahdi both are adamant that the police were lying, and AJ, 14 years later, is adamant that his friend is innocent.
Surveillance video could have confirmed Mahdi's alibi, but was never secured. What do we know about this?
So there were surveillance cameras from the University Fairview Hospital where AJ worked that captured Mahdi picking him up that night. Yet, detectives suspiciously failed to secure copies of the video, of the surveillance video, and instead, they only requested still images of Mahdi picking up AJ. However, detectives argued that the pickup time was at 8:26 p.m. rather than 7:45 p.m., like the teens claimed, arguing that the additional 45 minutes gave Mahdi enough time to commit the killings and still pick up AJ from work. But again, AJ and Mahdi are steadfast that the police lied in court and that they lied on the police report. Mahdi said his attorney never even received a copy of the hospital surveillance footage either, which he believes could have exonerated him.
So you're saying that there's a lack of credible evidence. How so?
So the blood DNA evidence that police allegedly found on Mahdi's jeans that came from one of the victims from the triple homicide, it was contaminated with the DNA of 3 other people, including a state investigator. So Mahdi believes that the blood drop was planted by police, considering it wasn't even discovered until 3 months after police seized the jeans. MPD didn't find any other clothes in Mahdi's apartment linked to the crime. There was no DNA or other evidence from the crime scene found inside AJ's car that Mahdi was driving that night.
Now, regarding the surveillance videos at the Seward Market, it appears Mahdi was too short and didn't match the description. What's going on there?
The accomplice depicted in the surveillance video from the Seward Market, Mahdi Ali, who was convicted of aggravated robbery, 3 counts of aggravated robbery. It was verified by MPD in their police report that he was 6 feet 1 inches tall at the time of the murders. The shooter depicted in the same video appears to be close in height as the accomplice. Yet Mahdi was listed on the police report as 5 feet 8 inches tall, nearly a half foot shorter than both Mahdi Ali and his cousin Abdi Salan Ali, who Mahdi believes committed the crimes together and blamed him. Despite the state arguing that the shooter appears to be much shorter than the person who goes to the back of the store, that was never credibly established in court. In fact, in one surveillance video from the day of the killings, when Mahdi, Ahmed, and his cousin Abdi Salan visited the Minneapolis impound lot, there is a visibly drastic height difference between Mahdi and Ahmed. However, in 2 other videos, including the Seward Market surveillance video and the Dahabashil check cashing store, where the 2 suspects stopped about an hour before the murders, there appears to be no discernible height difference between the 2 suspects. Abdi Salan testified in court that he was a half inch shorter than Ahmed, which seems closer to the height discrepancy between the accomplice and the shooter in the Seward Market surveillance videos.
Target Corporation personnel worked on this investigation and testified at the murder trial. So, was there a case here of a multinational corporation tipping the scales of justice?
It certainly appeared that way. For years, Target Corporation has funded the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Minneapolis Police Department, and they have regularly assisted law enforcement in their investigations, which still goes on to this day. At Mahdi's trial, 2 Target forensics investigators testified against Mahdi on behalf of the state, using questionable science to argue for the state that the shooter was shorter than the accomplice, and the jeans worn by the killer on the surveillance video appeared to be similar to the jeans police found at Mahdi's home. Now, when they were pressed by Mahdi's attorney under cross-examination, the 2 Target employees admitted that they could not exclude Mahdi nor Abdi Salan as suspects, although there was nearly a half-foot height difference between the 2. And they could not positively identify Mahdi's jeans as the ones in the video worn by the killer.
Your report showed the 2 original suspects blamed Mahdi for the killings. So, what did you find out about the motivations behind that?
So, Mahdi Ali and Abdi Salan Ali were named as the original suspects in a Crime Stoppers tip that was sent to the police the very next day after the killings. And Abdi Salan's classmate told the police that he confessed at school to killing 3 people the day after the murders. Ahmed was positively identified by police in surveillance videos from the Seward Market and from another stop they had made earlier that day. And Ahmed was initially charged with 6 counts of murder, and he had a life sentence hanging over his head before he was coerced by MPD and prosecutors, who offered him a deal only if he testified against Mahdi. Ahmed accepted the deal and pled guilty to 3 counts of attempted aggravated robbery instead, and received a substantially reduced sentence of just 12 to 18 years. Abdi Salan, whom the overwhelming evidence pointed to as being the likely killer, testified against Mahdi in what has been speculated as a secret deal, considering he was never charged with a crime.
There's an interesting element of informants in this case, potentially unreliable testimonies from those informants. This has been a pattern historically with the Minneapolis Police and the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. We've found that in Unicorn Riot's past reporting. Tell us what you found in this case.
Judge Cahill, who presided over Mahdis' murder trial, allowed prosecutors to use a jailhouse snitch and a paid police informant to testify against Mahdi, both claiming he confessed to the crimes. Leandro Garcia testified under oath that while he was locked up with Mahdi in the Carver County Jail, Mahdi confessed to the killings while they were watching the true crime show Another 48 Hours. Mahmoud Galoni, who was a certified reliable informant for Minneapolis police, or in other words, a paid snitch, also took the witness stand against Mahdi. He claimed that Mahdi had told him 2 weeks before the killings that he was planning to rob the Seward Market. But he admitted at trial that he didn't even know Mahdi's name until after his arrest. Galoni's testimony was so full of inconsistencies that the prosecutor had to show him a transcript of his interview with the police just to refresh his memory. Mahdi, however, maintains his innocence, and he told me that both of the informants lied in court.
One of the striking elements in this case are the blacked out sections of police interviews with Abdi Salan. Can you talk about how they investigated Ahmed's cousin?
According to the police report, detectives cleared Abdi Salan's alibi, which was full of inconsistencies, without ever once asking him if he killed the 3 people inside the market. Detectives told Abdi Salan they didn't have any evidence linking him to the killings and just wanted his cooperation in charging Mahdi for the murders. Though, according to the same classmate he confessed the killings to, Abdi Salan was involved in another killing that took place in Apple Valley, Minnesota, less than 5 months before the Seward Market murders occurred.
The killer was wearing Abdi Salan's jacket in the surveillance videos. That seems like a major deal. Why did this get brushed aside in the case?
When Abdi Salan took the witness stand at Mahdi's trial, the prosecuting attorney, Robert Streitz, presented him an image of the killer from the surveillance video. Abdi Salan identified the jacket the killer was wearing as his, although he said, under oath, "I can't recognize who's wearing it, but I gave the jacket to Mahdi." This contradicts detectives' statements during Abdi Salan's interview that they didn't have any evidence linking him to the crime scene.
Ahmed testified Mahdi was the killer, but years later he changed his story. Tell us about that.
In 2021, just a year before he was released from prison with good time, Ahmed recanted to a Fox 9 news reporter and said he lied about Mahdi's involvement and he is really innocent.
Yeah, I feel guilty about that because I was protecting somebody else and he ended up taking the fall for something that he didn't end up doing.
Now the problem is once Ahmed was released from prison, he never followed up to sign an affidavit which would have made his admission legally binding by law. In fact, he disappeared, he left town, and community members believe that he moved to Dallas, Texas with his family.
Okay, so there's a lot of other issues with this case, and they're all documented thoroughly in the piece on Unicorn Riot's website. It's called Target, Junk Science, and Unreliable Testimonies, the Contentious Conviction of 15-year-old Mahdi Ali. And there you can read all 27 issues found with the official investigation and the murder trial.
Viewers can sign a petition on change.org that was created by Mahdi Ali's family pushing for a new trial with the hopes to exonerate him. And we'll have a link to that petition in this story as well as the extensive report I did recently that's published on Unicorn Riot's website.
Great. Thank you very much for talking with us. Marjaan Sirdar, our contributor who spent 2 years tracking down the elements of this story. And again, you can read about it on our website. Thank you.
Thank you.